Today is Saturday, October the 15th, 2016. And I've come across this video of Mr. Ben Carson talking to MSNBC. I think it's Morning Joe. I know I saw Joe Scarborough. He was the main one that was talking to Ben Carson. And you had some random people there. I'm not quite sure who they were, but I digress. Now, whole point here is that he's talking to these individuals and they're having a discussion about the Donald Trump sexual assault accusers, whom there are a handful, maybe about 4 or 5. And I think the one they were focusing on was the young lady or the woman, I'm not quite sure how old she was at the time, who said that Trump assaulted her on the plane when he lifted the armrest in the center between them on the plane, and he, began to touch her unwarranted. So they're talking about that, and the media has spun it as Ben Carson saying that the sexual assault and others that are alleged don't matter, that somehow that's just not really important. Now, of course, the media at this point, we all know it doesn't even really matter what party you're with. It doesn't matter if you're a Trump supporter. It doesn't matter if you're a Hillary supporter. It doesn't matter if you're pretty much agnostic to voting in general. That's unimportant. The whole point is that I think we all know that the media is biased. They have their biases and they don't want Trump to get in there. I mean, that's pretty much clear at this point. I don't think anybody can really dispute that. So, of course, they're going to attack him on that which he said, and also just on Trump in general. And Ben Carson, what he said was a lot more simple, direct, and to the point, rather than what the media tried to portray it as. He said one thing, and then he immediately said exactly what he was meaning. But before I get into all of that, I just want to go ahead and show it. Now, the actual full original clip is about 13 minutes long. I won't play the entire clip because a lot of it was just some of these random individuals, these tomato cans, people that don't really have a sound argument, people who have no celebrity status. You don't know who they are, just random talking heads you've never seen before in your life. Some lady from the UK talking about how Brexit was bad, stupid stuff. And then some young white girl, I have no idea who she was. It's like she about 25, 26 years old, trying to wax poetic to Ben Carson like he doesn't know what he's talking about, trying to talk to him like she's a parent when she's probably still living in the house with her mommy and daddy. But I digress. Those parts I kind of cut out, but I will place the whole thing in its entirety in the box below. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
And one of Donald Trump's supporters, former Republican presidential candidate, Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, always good to see you, sir. Let me ask you quickly about what Mike Pence just said on the Today Show. He said that within a matter of hours, the Trump campaign will provide evidence that shows the accusers of the last few days of Donald Trump have fabricated their stories. Do you have any more insight onto what that evidence may be?
No, I do not have any insight into that. Although I do have common sense. And, for instance, if somebody's sitting next to you in the first class section of the airplane, there are stewardesses, there are other people around, and there's this gigantic armrest. What happened to all those things? I really look at the way that these things have been brought up, and as you know, a week or two, I predicted that this was going to happen, and that they will keep coming up with stuff to try to take your eye off the ball. The ball really is about what's happening to America. That's why 2 out of 3 Americans are concerned. And what we're engaging in is exactly what happens to pinnacle nations historically before their fall. They take their eye off the ball, start engaging in things that really don't matter that much. Not that, sexual language and abuses is not important, but when you're talking about the train going off the cliff, you really need to deal with that first. The other thing that's done is fiscal irresponsibility.
Dr. Carson,
let me just finish these 3 points, please.
You get 2 points. I'll let you get to your second point. You got to let me respond to the first point so we can do this in a rational way. So on your first point, though, you say the train's going off the cliff. The character of the conductor matters, though, does it not? Nations rise and fall based on the quality of their leadership, based on the character of their leaders. Character does count, yes, does it not?
Yes, and the conductor needs to make a decision. If there's a fight going on in the coach car and the train's going off the cliff, which one is he going to do? That's a good conductor.
I want to push you on this allegations of sexual abuse, because you seem to be suggesting this morning in this interview with your description of the first-class cabin and in previous interviews that these women are lying. The real reason that women who have been sexually abused don't come forward to talk about their stories is precisely this, that all too often they are accused of being liars. Are you saying that these women are lying?
That's your characterization, because you need to characterize it that way to try to make me the bad guy.
No,
but here's the fact.
No, you just said it's a question. You were describing a first-class cabin where there was an
Stop.
Hey, can you turn her microphone off, please?
No.
Turn her microphone off so I can talk.
No, we can't.
No, it's a simple question. Yes or no? Do you believe these women are lying or not? Nobody's trying to paint you as a bad guy. We just want an answer. Straight talk.
It doesn't matter whether they're lying or not.
Of course it matters.
What matters, listen, it doesn't matter whether they're lying or not. What matters is that the train is going off the cliff. We're taking our eye off of that, and we're getting involved in other issues that can be taken care of later.
If the campaign is saying, and you are suggesting that they are lying because this possibly couldn't have happened because of the way that first-class cabins are designed and their air hostess is there, which is implying that you think they are lying, that they're not telling the truth,
then
that's a huge issue.
Okay. Here's what we need to be thinking about. I love the fact that all of a sudden you want to talk about morality in our country. I would love us to bring back our Judeo-Christian values and begin to teach those things and emphasize them at a time other than a political election. Let's do that. But right now, the train is going off the cliff.
Are they not relevant?
You've got to understand that.
Dr. Carson, you definitely know how bruising a primary battle can be. But the entire time you ran for president, you were not accused of a sexual transgression the entire duration of your race, except perhaps by Donald Trump, who referenced you somewhat as a pedophile in a completely unfounded and ridiculous statement. What does it say that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 multiple accusations about Donald Trump, and you didn't have a single accusation like that against you?
Again, not the important issue. It's like hitting against a brick wall, getting people, and particularly people in the news media, to understand how much trouble we're in. Look at what's happening to the future of our children. We got a almost $20 trillion national debt, a fiscal gap of $200 trillion.
50% of the electorate are women.
You think about what's happening with our borders. You think what's happening with our jobs. You think about what's happening with education. You look at all the division that's going on in our country. A house divided against itself cannot stand. It's like you need to shake people and say, look,
you
folks,
said something
we
that was fascinating.
These are not Republican or Democrat issues. This is America we're talking about.
Wanted to
Get
talk
it through
about
your thick skulls.
Yeah, my fault.
Okay, so you were able to see that. Now, don't you see what they did there? They tried to make it seem like he was saying that the sexual assaults don't matter. But as soon as he said the statement at the beginning where you had Joe Scarborough kind of just, pop his top, he was saying that he is not saying that the allegations are not important, but what's more important, the allegations that he said, that she said, trying to figure out what happened 30 years ago, or the actual future of our country, right? And it's pretty simple to make that choice. Some would say, well, both are just as important. No, they're not. People that say things like that are not fit to lead. You can't ride the fence on things like that. If I come to you with two choices you got to make one of the two choices. You have to make one. You can't say, well, both. On one hand, you say, okay, we're going to focus on Donald Trump and his alleged sexual abuse history, or we're going to focus on the health of our entire country. What is more important? And you can't just say, well, can we focus on both? No, you got to focus on one or the other, because if you're going to focus on Donald Trump and his past, that right there is just one more thing the media would do to try and get him out of the race and to put Hillary Clinton in there. If you focus on the health of the country and you're looking at which candidate is best for the health of the country going forward, you got to just look at Donald Trump as the best person to do it and not Hillary Clinton. It's very simple. A lot of these media networks are all under the same umbrella. They work for some of the same people. They got a lot of the same big name money people backing them. I think Carlos Slim owns some of New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. maybe even some of NBC. I'm not quite sure on that. Don't fact check me on that one. But when you're talking about these corporations that are owned in part by a Mexican billionaire, and you have Trump saying things like, we're going to put up a wall, wouldn't it make sense for those corporations to speak negatively against someone that says that? Really, it's kind of like a conflict of interest when you got a Mexican billionaire who has interest in keeping that wall down and keeping the borders free flowing. It's kind of a conflict of interest to have that individual be somewhat in control of American news media when he's a foreign national. But I digress on that point. Whole point here is that there are more important things to worry about now. Just like Ben Carson said, it doesn't mean that the sexual assault accusations are not serious or that they should not be investigated. Sure. I mean, if you have any kind of evidence or proof, I mean, the evidence in the case of the people that have come forward so far is kind of shaky. One of the women wrote Donald Trump a letter trying to get him to come to her restaurant, right? And then her cousin came out and said that she, the person that's accusing Donald Trump of doing whatever he did, that she is lying. And she was a contestant on The Apprentice in 2007. You never heard about anything like that up until now. Like I said earlier, she wrote a letter to Donald Trump saying that she was the only contestant from The Apprentice that had her own brick and mortar restaurant that individuals can come in, and that she would like for him to come in there and have like a meet and greet to show how great of a person he is. It was a glowing letter. Maybe she was trying to butter him up for, you know, some money. I don't know what it was, but it was a glowing recommendation of his character, and she invited him to a restaurant. So it doesn't make any sense for her to do that years after an alleged sexual assault, you know. And then the whole situation with the woman on the airplane, it's been revealed that she has ties to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Crime Foundation. Now, I'm not saying just because those things are true that I said that their accusations can be 100% false, but it certainly damages their credibility. But the whole point here is that Ben Carson was saying the correct thing. There are more important things to worry about. The country is going off of the cliff. Let's stop the country from dissolving, because we can debate, we can bicker back and forth about, you know, what Donald Trump did, that he said, that she said. We can do all that at a later date, just like Ben Carson said. Even if he gets elected and then later on he gets brought up on charges and maybe even locked up after he gets impeached, even if that happens, you still got Mike Pence in there, and you still got a Republican controlled, you know, White House. If that happens, which I doubt it will, but if it did, you still have that. That's a better chance for your country to be able to live, because at that point you got Republicans in there. You can kind of try to negotiate with them, because we all Trump supporters, people that are against the establishment, we are all against Republicans doing kind of shady things. A lot of us have woken up to what's going on, so we're going to hold their feet to the fire. And if they're not able to capitulate to our demands, then that is a way for us to get them out of office and then put in those who we want to have in office, rather than just having things be the status quo. Now, if you get Hillary Clinton in there, it's all over with. It won't be any room to argue or bicker or fuss or fight anymore. Once the nuclear bombs come from China, Iran, Russia, or whatever, and they hit Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, you be trying to escape the nuclear holocaust. And it's not me trying to be a fear monger. It just had on NBC Nightly News talking about we're trying to engage in a secret cyber war with Russia. They said that on the news. Now, if I'm being a fear monger, why would they put something like that on TV? This is coming from the Obama camp and the Democrats, right? Now, I'm just saying what they are putting on TV. If they're going to put that they're going to engage in a cyber war, or they may engage in a cyber war with Russia on NBC Nightly News, imagine what they're not telling you behind the scenes. And then in the actual debate, I think it may have been in the most recent one or the one before that between Trump and Hillary, Trump made a good point about why do we put our plans militarily just on regular TV like that? And I think it was Martha Raddatz or somebody that said that, well, there's a reason for that, because you want to get civilians out of there and etc. But in this case, it doesn't make any sense, because who are you trying to warn by saying it's a cyber war coming? I mean, a civilian, what are they going to do if it's a cyber war? What, change their passwords to their Twitter account? You know, they say they're going to hit the Kremlin. How does that involve a regular citizen? What is the point of putting that on TV? Stupid stuff. But like I say, if they tell you that on NBC Nightly News, imagine what they're not telling you that is going on behind the scenes. Imagine what kind of backwater deals you have not seen in WikiLeaks yet. And by the way, as I close, to touch on WikiLeaks briefly, which I may do a whole different video about that. I mean, you see what the Democrat Party is once you lift the hood and see what they talk about in their email exchange. Even Nina Turner, a very outspoken Democrat, has said that what she's seen in the Democrat emails, some of which mention her, are most certainly real, because the whole narrative of the left is that, oh, these emails, some of them are fraudulent, they're fake, they're not real stories, they're parodies, you know, they're hacked by the Russians, they can't be taken seriously. But Nina Turner, an outspoken Democrat, has said that she can tell by the way they were written that they came from within the DNC, period. Right. And then, like I say, it kind of lifts the hood of the Democrat Party in many different ways, the hood of a car and the hood over the head. But I digress. It tells you who they are. I mean, you got John Podesta, who is basically a race realist. Right. I mean, if it was somebody like David Duke saying what he was saying, talking about the Roma, the blacks and the Muslims, they're ne'er-do-wells, they always do bad, they always perform poorly wherever they are. If it was David Duke saying that, then it'd be outrage across the country, because people will try to say that that's attributed to Donald Trump because David Duke has come out and said that he likes Donald Trump. But John Podesta, who is a chair of the 2016 Hillary Clinton campaign, says this in emails, and there's near a whimper from the mainstream media, because at the end of the day, the goal, the ball that they have their eye on in the mainstream media is to get Hillary Clinton elected. And this is why I stand by Ben Carson, because he was saying we're taking our eye off of the ball. People that want the sovereignty of our nation to continue, people that want freedom for the American people, we're taking our eye off the ball and we're focusing on things that really don't matter in a larger context. Not that they don't matter at all, but there are certain more important things that must be dealt with before we deal with the smaller issues, right? Prioritize. It's very simple. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. You know, my final thoughts, the allegations against Trump are serious and they should be investigated. Like I say, it looks kind of bad for the individuals that have come out. It's a lot of evidence already that has come out to negate what they said. But hey, let's investigate it. But let's not focus on that, because we have more important issues. The election is almost here. So let's not go into November 8th talking about he said, she said. Let's talk about the future of the country. Are we going to have nuclear winter or not? I think that's more important than worrying about he said, she said. Deal with that later. But first, let's make sure that we fight to keep our country afloat. And let's not have it be brought down by the Democrats' plan of cyber war with Russia, proxy war with Russia and Syria, and maybe the end game, which is nuclear war. So what do you think? Do you agree with what Ben Carson said? Do you think that the media was trying to twist his words around to try and make him appear to be some type of, you know, insensitive individual, like the lady from UK and that random, you know, young girl, just want to talk to him in a way to make him seem like he's so insensitive? Or do you think I'm wrong here? Do you think that Ben Carson tried to act like the alleged victims' stories or their accusations were nothing, like they should be dismissed, like they shouldn't be believed at all? I mean, if that's your case, then please explain to me why you think that, because in the actual tape I just played, he was explaining that their accusations are important, yes, but there are things that are much more important. You're talking about the sovereignty of our nation, the health of our people, the future of Americans in general, 300 million people versus a few he said, she said, who did what, rumors, stuff like that. What's more important? And you can't just say, let's focus on both, because that is not what leaders do. Leaders got to make tough decisions. You got two choices. Which one is it going to be? Whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Stop. Hey, can you turn her microphone off, please?
No.
Turn her microphone off so I can talk.